Here. Let's shift over to our main topic here of the top 10 fictional fighters in movie and TV history. Oh. All right, there we go. How's that for a sounders there? It was incredibly tough trying to find a Haya sound.
Was it really?
Yeah, you wouldn't think so, right? I was trying to, free MP3 downloads of karate sounds, like karate yells, and then, like you would find them, but you would have to pay for them or sign up. And I'm just looking for like a free, cheap soundboard.
Yeah,
and couldn't do it. I just wanted to hiya.
The thuds are quite they're quite a bit louder. Like it feels like it's happening right next to me.
That was like movie quality sound. So I was able to get those soundboards, but I have to, like screen record off of YouTube for the highest sound. So that's the variation there when we're working with the low budgets here over on the CMM podcast. All right, but this was in honor of Creed 3 that we reviewed last week. Did I right? Or
yes.
Am I losing track of time here? Or was
maybe?
Last week?
But you're correct. You might be losing track of time, but you are correct.
All right, good. Now it moves fast and slow here. So I thought, Nick came up with a great idea of getting these fictional fighters in a list, counting them down, going tit for tat in typical CMM fashion here. So Nick put his list together. I put my list together. We had about a list of 20 or so each, I would say. So we each took the top 15, ranked them. 1 to 15, one getting 15 points and 15 getting 1 point, right? I think I said that right.
I believe so.
And then we added them all together to create a top 10 with a couple honorable mentions, and then we'll get to some dishonorably discharged and maybe some other ones we like to mention as well. But Nick, why don't you tell us what your thoughts were coming in here? I'm putting your list in. What were you trying to power rank here?
Okay, so first of all, no powers. So we could there are certain Mortal Kombat characters who get thrown into the mix, but it had to be in specific ways. But like a Scorpion or Sub-Zero, not in the mix, because then it was just like we start bringing in so many different people that don't really have to do with this list. No real life fighters, so no Muhammad Ali, even though Will Smith betrayed him. No Mickey Ward. Obviously there's a list of people we go on with. And then the two things that I weighed once. I guess another thing was I wanted my fighter to also like have fought in a ring. In some capacity, or have been like a mixed martial artist or a boxing like a trainer
be
that
in a
had
tournament or something, but not in a street fighter necessarily,
right? But I don't think there's a Jackie Chan character who comes up that is like trained as a mixed martial artist in the movie, but I don't think he fights people, but I don't think he's ever in a ring. I may be misremembering, but either way, so it's just like that's like kind of the difference. And then it was who I'd want to serve as my champion, like Game of Thrones style, like if my life was on the line and I need someone to represent me. And then I also tried to factor in pound for pound fighting and effectiveness with that, because there's some people who they wouldn't be first on my list, but like if they're up against someone in their weight class, they're awesome. They do their job in that setting. So that's how I set mine up.
So yeah, and I think we're very much in the same. I tried to stick to fighters or people who had some sort of trained fighting experience. So whether that was in the ring or out of the ring, that was kind of my thought behind it. But also the pound for pound thing kind of struck me, because I liked the idea of the Game of Thrones champion, right? Because that was kind of my process behind it too. But when you get to pound for pound, it gets kind of tough.
Sure.
Because if I have to face, let's say an NFL offensive lineman or something like that in a battle, like I'm not sure, how much of Jackie Chan's or Bruce Lee's moves are going to be effective in that situation,
Yeah. No, and that's why but I only looking at characters basically when I get to the top 10, they either have to have size or they have to have shown that they can handle somebody that is immensely oversized. Like I'm looking at my number 5, my number 3, and I feel like my number 2, like they've handled people. They're not the biggest, but they've handled some big people. Whereas like I have, my 17, I never saw them handle anybody outside of their weight class, but they absolutely dominated their weight class. So that's kind of the route I took on that stuff. But it's a fair point. Like, I agree with you. That's important to weigh.
It's tough going back and forth on it here. But let's hop right. So do you want to get into some of the bad fighters, or maybe some that both made our list but didn't make the cut?
Why don't we we can save the bad ones for a little bit later on. But yeah, let's start with who was on both of our lists but didn't make the cut. So coming in with 4 points was Jake Gyllenhaal's Billy Hope from the movie Southpaw, which obviously a very emotional movie. I do enjoy that movie a lot. If we were doing fighter movie rankings, this would be on that list.
Pretty high.
Yeah. But he did not make the cut. He was 13th on my list and 15th on your list.
Yeah, and again, I think this is great. I mean, he's a light heavyweight champion, so he certainly has weight on his size there. I think he's 42, 43, you know, depending on how you look. So he's got a great record. He doesn't lose anything. But it's all the PTSD, it's all the mental stuff with him that I think I would be a little bit concerned about if he would go be there all mentally to protect me in a fight.
For me, I think it'll show out with as we go through some of our rankings. Like with boxers, it's like there are some guys like, yeah, okay, they can handle themselves in any situation, especially with size. Like Hope is technically in the heavyweight range, but at the same time, I look at him, I don't think heavyweight when I look at him, and I know it's light heavyweight, and I'm almost like, I go and put up against some of these fighters who, like, you bring in the ground game and stuff like that. What are you going to do? I mean, the next guy actually we have on our list is a ground game guy, and like he's just ahead of him on my list.
Yeah, and again, and this is where I struggled with keeping guys to like with fight experience. I think in a fight and potentially a fight to the death, you have to be able to bend the rules. And if you are so used to operating within rules that maybe you're not going to stray from it, that could be a detriment to you. As we saw with what's his name? Felix in Creed 3, right?
Yeah. Yep. 100%. So then we move to our other, I guess this is our honorable mention list, technically, right? People who just missed the cut.
Yeah. So Tom Conlon there again. Let me ask you this, because I didn't see the movie Warrior. I watched some fights of it. I watched some YouTube highlights. So you had Brendan higher, right? Brendan Conlon. So why is that?
So Brendan did, just to let the people know. Well, we'll get to Brendan more later. Whatever. He beat Tommy in the ring. So as much as like Tommy Conlon had all the excitement behind him and all the flair, or more, he seemed like he had more flair because he was so like emotional and like powerful. I want the guy who's more effective.
See, okay, that's fair enough there. I go to the military, I had him down for some military experience. I had him, from what I understand too, with Warrior, it was like an MMA tournament that you fight consecutively almost after. Like there's not a whole lot of passage of time between these fights here, which would take an extreme amount of energy. I'm not sure that anyone would ever be capable of that. I think Rogan has talked about that, how that's just so unrealistic.
Yeah, that's why this came out around the same time as The Fighter, and I like one of my college roommates was like, "Oh yeah, this is better than the Warrior is better than The Fighter," and he was just saying it to piss me off, probably. But it's just like, no, it's not. Like I enjoy the movie, but there's no way it's better. But in the end, like they went through the same stuff, like in terms of the fighting. And like Brendan was asked, like he had to be more patient, was taking a beating, and then he busts a move on his brother, and then he ends up like taking care of business pretty quickly in the scheme of it all.
Yeah. Okay. All right then. Yeah. Let's go to, like you said, our honorable mentions here, ones that just missed the cut. Coming in at number 12, Mickey O'Neill, played by Brad Pitt. Maybe not the Brad Pitt that you were expecting to see on this list. From the movie Snatch, I think a year 2000 Guy Ritchie film. I actually had him number 6 on my list. You didn't have him ranked, so that's a total of 10 points. Unassuming Irish gypsy boxer with an incredible, not only a gypsy boxer, but a bare knuckle gypsy boxing champion with a strong punch. He's supposed to throw the fight in the movie, and his pride just won't, and his love for his mother ultimately won't let him give it up. So he's great at playing possum and playing dumb, and like this this unassuming fighter who's very skinny. You wouldn't think that he's very strong. You see him in another fight. just getting the crap kicked out of him and just letting it happen. And then he just needs one punch to knock the dude out, and that's it. And he like kind of kills him. So, that's kind of like, I like that guy in my corner more often than not. The unassuming guy, you can't understand a word he's saying throughout this movie, but very unassuming, very strong punch.
So this is one of two characters on this list who I haven't at least seen their highlight reel of fights on here. So I can't put him on. I didn't look his stuff up. So
now I think he's a much stronger fighter than Tyler Durden of One Fight Club, and he'll get mentioned a little bit later in the program here. But I think of the two Brad Pitt fighters, give me Mickey O'Neill.
I will take your word for that one, and I'm gonna I need to watch this movie actually.
Yeah, it's fun. It's a good watch. It's a good watch there. What do we got? 11, just missing the cut.
So this one, this fighter was not on your list, similar to me with Mickey O'Neill, but was fifth on my list, coming in with 11 points. Sonya Blade, played by Jennifer Carpenter, specifically in the Mortal Kombat Scorpion's Revenge, Wes's favorite movie of all time. I don't know who plays the character in the live action movie. I had looked that up, but when I was looking at her fights, I forgot she had powers in that movie. That was kind of like for the whole thing. And she does have like powers in the game at times. But in this movie, she did not. In the animated movie, she did not have that. And obviously, this is a whole like fighting competition and taking on. And then it's like a rescue mission and everything else that's involved. And she's taking on some big motherfuckers, and she takes them all down. So to me, it's kind of a cut and dry situation with her, where it's like you talk about pound for pound. Like she doesn't like she's very much fighting outside her weight class. And obviously taking on like beings with abilities and shit like that. So Sonya Blade is like the only, there's not many Mortal Kombat characters I think that can qualify for this list. Johnny Cage does as well. At least in that movie, he was on my list again for similar reasons. But when then I factor in pound for pound, like Sonya Blade's more impressive.
Yeah, I had both Sonya and Johnny Cage on my first drafts of this running through. But again, when I went through and looked at like some of like the wiki fandom pages, which is a whole other rabbit hole, like if you ever want to go down, like it's just a wealth of nerd information on pretty much any topic that you want there. But with Mortal Kombat, I mean, they're talking about different games, different TV shows, anime, movies, all that type of stuff. And it kept coming up with power. So I was like, I don't know Mortal Kombat well enough. But I thought they were just regular humans, so I thought that was the interesting part. But I did go back. I fell asleep watching Mortal Kombat last night. Actually, the live action one that's on HBO Max right now. So she's really badass and quite the looker as well.
So knowing that now you don't like obviously you don't like the Scorpion's Revenge movie much. Would you, if I had given you that knowledge prior to, would you have possibly moved her up on your list?
So she would have made the list, but maybe towards the bottom end, because she has trouble taking a life, and that's why she doesn't get the Mortal Kombat symbol early on. She can't take a life, so that might be the difference between winning and losing in a fight to the death.
That's a very, very fair point.
So yeah, I want someone who can go to the distance here. But now we're heading into our top 10, cracking that here, but we still don't have one that we both agreed upon yet. So at number 10, we have the Hound from Game of Thrones. I had him number 4, didn't have him ranked. That's 12 points. He's weighing in at 6'8", 300 plus pounds. He can withstand being burnt, although he is deathly afraid of fire. A little bit of irony in that. And he's seen many a battle. So he's battle tested in war. He's fought drunk. He's been plenty injured. Now, where I struggle with some of these Game of Thrones characters is how good would they be in a fight, in a hand-to-hand fight, without the use of swords or weaponry or anything like that, right? Which I think was some of my troubles with the other Game of Thrones character that we'll be mentioning a little later.
Yeah.
But the Hound, I think he brings that brute force. And you talk about pound for pound, I think, if you're dealing with a Sonya Blade or, again, a Bruce Lee, Jackie Chan, who is going to be very skilled and might be able to, knock you off your guard, more often than not, they're going to be able to wear those type of blows and then just be able to overpower you.
That explains a lot about your list with the weaponry stuff that's factoring, because there's another character not related to Game of Thrones who definitely uses weaponry in the ring quite a bit, that was lower on your list but much higher on mine. But when it comes to the Hound, the only thing I want to note is why I didn't have the Hound versus two other characters in Game of Thrones who I did include on my list is I don't recall the Hound ever being in the ring in any capacity.
Right on that, yeah.
So, and obviously he was trained, but it's just like, this is like, I have my like whatever. I had to make my own limitations, and Wes and I didn't go over beforehand, so like whatever. And that's going to be the same case with our number 9 characters. Obviously, this is a character who I friggin' love. But do you have anything else?
This is one. No. I think we touched on it all. And this is going to be a run of, what is it? 1, 2, 3, 4 people tied for 6th place right now. But for intents and purposes, we'll go with Aragorn at number 9 for Lord of the Rings. He was my number 3 just because. Well, I'll get to that in a second. You didn't have him ranked. He's 6'6". He's 6'6". He's lanky. He's slender. They don't really have a weight listed for him so much, but he has an indomitable will. Like, he has his will to keep going, I think, is what is a huge driver, much like Mickey O'Neill, his will to never stop. I mean, if you watch Mickey O'Neill's final fight in Snatch, he gets the ever-living piss beaten out of him. And he still gets up every time. You know, you fall down 6, you fall down 5 times, you get up 6, right? That's what Aragorn has, aside from being that natural born leader. Again, he might be a little too dependent on the sword and battle and stuff like that, relying on armor and maybe having a white wizard on your side too. Maybe that's kind of helpful. But I would follow this guy almost anywhere, I think. And I think I would take my chances on him. In most cases, if maybe not my first choice, but in most cases, I would trust him.
In a military situation, I don't know if there's a better leader in like film, like television. That definitely the guy that you would feel most comfortable following into battle. It's the same reason as the Hound. That's all I want to know, because I love Aragorn. And if you're talking about, like, again, pound for pound, and I guess if we were talking like fighters and like bringing in, like, you know, Marvel heroes and different like fantasy characters and different stuff, I think Aragorn would be on my like top 10 list here, because I'd probably factor in, instead of pound for pound, more like what they have to work with. Because like if Aragorn had like Iron Man tech and he grew up in that world, like maybe he could like be as effective or more effective than Tony Stark. Yeah. So it's a little bit different. There'd be different things there, but yeah, obviously like he's he's close to hand-to-hand combat with this stuff. So I mean, he is with weaponry. That's all. So yeah.
And he's, but 6'6" is a long reach there.
True.
You know, it's tough coming in on him.
Yes, I will say though, him versus Legolas, because like, you know, elves have a little bit of an advantage. I don't know, but still, as a leader, definitely Aragorn.
Elves seem springy on their feet.
But they are strong. Well, yeah, I don't know how much of a punch that they pack, in fairness.
I think they would be more like flyweights, and it would be like a death by 1,000 paper cuts.
You mean more like the guy who I had as my number 3 and as our number 8?
Maybe. No, I would say he's a step up from the elves.
Okay, and the guy we're talking about is played by none other than Pedro Pascal. I believe this was my, at least knowingly, introduction to him as an actor. Oberyn Martell, from Game of Thrones. I think actually he made an appearance in like Buffy. Like he's been in stuff like for years.
Yeah.
Just wasn't to me, this is when he became somebody. Oh, I know who this guy is.
Right. Same here.
And I mean, look, you bring up the lack of weaponry. Yes, I haven't seen that with Oberyn Martell, because obviously he's
a bow staff, right?
Right. There wasn't a blade on it, I don't think. I can't remember.
It might have been, but yeah, it's a long staff. Yeah, nevertheless.
But he is obviously very slender. He takes on the Mountain, who no person in the entire kingdom wants to fight. Not that anybody really wants to fight the Red Viper either, but and I know he gets a little bit too like flary, and it ends up costing him significantly, but he's still one of my absolute favorite characters from Game of Thrones. And if it's anybody but the Mountain, pretty much in that ring, that doesn't happen. He doesn't lose that fight in the end because of cockiness, because he was all emotional and handled himself the way he did because of what the Mountain had done to his sister in the past. That's all. Other than that, man, like he's like open and shut, and I have no problem. And where I hear you on the weaponry thing with him and some of the other characters that we're going to talk about, it's like, this is what they had when they were in the ring. So like,
Right.
I'm like trying to weigh that, but as much as some of these other guys are like, just hand-to-hand fighters.
I mean, it's tough, like 9 words in this quote here. But I mean, what's so memorable about Oberyn Martell in that? He's like, "You raped her, you murdered her," and then he says something else, "You did something else to her," but he just kept saying that like over and over again as he's like standing over her. It's just like, and then just make the kill, man. Just make it happen.
Yeah.
So his hubris is a little bit of his own worst enemy there, right? His own cockiness there. So maybe he's cashing checks before they're actually written. But also, you touched on this. He's a passionate man. He's very fiery. If he were to be my champion and win, I mean, any family I have at this point is just completely gone. He's going to come and steal your girl. I mean, that's done, right? I mean, and just sweep you right off the feet and just go right back to where Dorne, and just get drunk off that Dornish wine.
You might not be wrong about that. He's Mr. Steal Your Girl. He might be. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he is what Pedro Pascal is like. What is it now? He's the internet's daddy or whatever that thing is now. I don't know.
Well, okay, so here's maybe a quick edit here we can do. Where would Joel play from The Last of Us?
See, he wouldn't be on my list because he wasn't a fighter.
But he fights to the death, though.
Right, but he's not like ever in a boxing ring or arena, and he wasn't a mixed martial. Then like some of these, we'll get to number 4. I'll explain like where I don't think he was in the ring ever.
But there's something to be said about a guy who with no training who just has again that indomitable will and spirit to keep going and just come out on top. And I think that whether it's 2 guys, 3 guys, people with guns getting stabbed in the belly, he's doing pretty good out there.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's still tied for 6th, but we'll give it 7th here. We have a person who made both of our lists, Ivan Drago. From Rocky 4, my 5th, your 14th for 13 points there. He's standing in at 6'5", 261 pounds, obvious heavyweight with a record of 31-1, 31 knockouts. He also comes in with 10 years of service in the Russian military. So that's no joke there. So that guy's definitely hardened, and he's juiced to the gills, Nick, on HGH, steroids, whatever they can cook up in those Russian labs.
Yeah, he's definitely not someone in general that you want to mess with. I made some adjustments there on this list though that I have like my own list and then I whatever. I screwed something up, but not by much. But still, I didn't put it on our sheet. So this is the list. I'm not making you do math again.
Okay. Well, what'd you have here? What was the
screw
up?
I had him at 14 originally, and that is the list that you have here. But I moved him up to 12. But then that would have messed with. There's somebody else who I adjusted on the list. There's a couple people. So like, no, this is the list. It's tough.
Okay.
I fucked up. So, anyways, it's not would have moved up too much. He might have just been at number 6 instead. But yeah, for Drago, he obviously an outstanding fighter, but he also did need the help of some PEDs. Still a moose when we see him later on, but I just question like, okay, what if he doesn't keep getting his stuff? Like, what if somebody messes with him, like and goes behind the scenes and steals his shit? Is he still going to be able to take on the people in the same capacity that he can? And also, like, he lost to Rocky, who will come up. Does not come up on this list, does he?
Does not, no.
Wow. But I saw your measurements for him, and it's like tiny fighter. Like, so
for Rocky, yeah.
So you lost to that guy. I'm just like, okay, yeah, you're definitely a big time fighter, but I don't know, like that comfortable with having him fight.
But he also killed Apollo Creed in the ring.
He does have that experience. This is true.
There's something to be said. I agree. That does certainly knocks points off losing to Rocky Balboa or to anyone of that size and stature when you're that size and stature, right?
Yep.
6'5", 261. I mean, you got an Eastern Bloc upbringing from the Soviet Union, not even like Russia or Ukraine. I mean, Soviet Union, Cold War era. Like, that is a hard life that you're growing up with. You see all the D'Agostani mixed martial arts that are coming through there now, like how poorly they live, and all they live is like to raise goats and train. Like, that's kind of the situation that they're getting brought up in. I don't know if I can, like, we're soft as baby poo. That's why Adonis didn't make my list. I think he's just too comfortable in his life. Um,
Mm,
Most Americans are too. So that's why I
mm,
think Ivan Drago would be able to withstand that. But
that's fair.
the great argument is losing to Rocky.
Yeah, 100%. And then as much as we bring that up, where I'm factoring in that loss, we look at number 6 on our list, and he, when you look at his professional boxing record, it's just 1-1. But I can't help but think with Dame Anderson, of course, played by Jonathan Majors, comes in at 8th on my list, 11th on your list to get 13 points and lead the 13-point group. It's just that that he's been to prison. He has like a different life experience. So we see it in the ring. There is a different level of edge to him that other guys don't have. And if we're talking about like saving your life, like there's something more on the line with this guy, and he should be able to handle that situation a little bit better than Adonis or most of these other guys.
Right, and the 1-1 record, little misleading. He was a Golden Gloves champion as an amateur or as a youth, so before going away to prison there, and all that kind of goes away in the wash there, right? But
yep.
But he does have that prison experience, which you certainly can't discount. Wow.
Right.
Losing the words there. But just like I was saying about Ivan Drago having that, like, being that Eastern Bloc Russian upbringing, like that, the same could be said about Dame Anderson in prison, and kind of getting that hardened lifestyle there.
100%.
And that gets on display with him willing to use those dirty tactics against Felix. And Felix when they're sparring or actually in the championship fight there. So I'm okay with him, like, throwing dirt in your eyes to be able to, get a cheap shot or maybe hit you below the belt or something like that. You can account for that for Dame Anderson.
And with him too, as much as because while he does have that experience of going to prison, I also look at like, he lost those years of training where he absolutely would have torched Adonis and all these other guys if he got that same kind of training. As much as he would have been, like, he was hardened by the life that he ended up having, but he was also just a naturally good fighter to begin with. Like, there was an infinite amount of potential. So no matter what route this guy had, like, he's older and he kind of loses his chance. Maybe we'll see where the rest of the franchise goes, but like, he obviously was. There's a lot of potential there with him, and even at that old age, he could still, go and give some more people a hard time.
Yeah, absolutely. Here now, as we get into our top 5, so it feels like our bottom, 10 through 6 has more of a Western influence, maybe more boxing it influenced here, but I think 5 through 1 has a little bit more of an Eastern influence, more Eastern disciplines here. We're getting to that a little bit with number 5 coming in at 14 points. I had this as my number 2, surprisingly. And you didn't have this ranked. This is Kurt Sloan, played by Jean-Claude Van Damme in the movie Kickboxer.
I've never seen this. Did not see the highlights of this. There are some that I haven't seen the movie, but I've seen the highlights of these characters. I didn't do that with this one.
And there's so many these like cheesy 80s like fight movies, right, that you could go through. There was like a huge explosion of that. So we don't have any. I'm not sure if Steven Seagal is represented here. There's a couple other Chuck Norris that we might touch on a little bit later. But that type of like cheesy bad actors, but Jean-Claude certainly falls into that there, right? But they're really good and disciplined in their crafts, right? In their martial arts. So he has mastery of the Muay Thai boxing. He has vengeance on his side. He's 5'10", 176 pounds. So I think that's a great average height and weight to be able to kind of like go up and down. You can go up a little bit there. He's 176 pounds, pure muscle too. So like, there's not an ounce of fat on this guy, particularly in Kickboxer. He is like, again, I'm with Nick on this. I haven't seen this movie. I've watched a whole bunch of the YouTube highlights though, and his ability to incorporate his legs is just, the fighting styles are awful in this because you're dealing with 80s, but his ability to use his legs in a fight is a difference maker. I think he might run into some trouble when you get into like MMA type of guys, ground games, that sort of thing that can catch your leg and then easily manipulate it. But I mean, you see him throw these heel kicks like he's Shawn Michaels. I mean, he's getting right up there, and it's the flexibility is second to none. Of course, he's Jean-Claude's famous for all those splits. I think those Super Bowl commercials a few years ago, right?
Yep, that's the first thing I think of when I think of Jean-Claude Van Damme is the split.
Yeah, so and again, he has vengeance on his side here. So he was done wrong by someone. So I think any reason to feel like that he has to come back or right a wrong, that's gonna maybe fuel him a little bit more. And much like we were talking about with Tommy Conlon
Mm.
and the Warrior of having to go through a tournament style fighting. So does Kurt Sloan in a kickboxer. So it's
Oh,
kind of he has the endurance, he has the stamina to withstand a long
sure.
long bout.
Sure. Okay. Okay. I got nothing to add, obviously, because I haven't seen it. So,
No, roll us right into number 4 here because this was a marriage of this. A little peek behind the curtain here. I think Jackie Chan deserves to get represented. So whether it was Rush Hour or Drunken Master,
yep.
I just roll it all into one here.
Sure. And I mean, the one that I was, because I agree with you that Jackie Chan needs to be represented on here. And I was like, okay, but where, like, and I thought
What's
of
the best, right?
well, I actually thought of the animated show from when I was a kid, Jackie Chan Adventures. But then
Okay,
with my
yeah.
rules that I have set in place, I can't, as far as I know, he never fought in the ring or anything like that. And he wasn't like trained in martial arts. So Wong Feng Hung, played by Jackie Chan, I believe I'm saying that correctly, from Drunken Master. He was 6th on my list, 9th on your list, coming in at 17 points, just narrowly missing a tie for 3rd place. He is. I saw highlights of him fighting. I don't remember seeing him in the ring, but he was like part of the movie is him being trained in kung fu, I believe, by this like washed up like drunk trainer. So that's
Mm-hmm.
why I have no problem including him on this list. Whereas like Jackie Chan from Jackie Chan Adventures, as much as like it's clearly a fictional character in that cartoon, that's not his thing. Like it's not about him being trained, in any martial arts or anything like that. So that's where I was able to draw the line here. And again, he needs to be included. And watching, there's a fight scene in like a marketplace kind of area. I don't know if you saw that when you were looking up his stuff or in the past,
Mm-hmm.
but I'd seen like people talk about the drunken fighter before because I know that like hand gesture, like it's very like specific, and seeing him on full display, like this is peak Jackie Chan. It's absolutely insane what he's able to do for the stunts.
Yeah, and again, whether we talk about Jackie Chan, Bruce Lee, Jet Li, all of these actors, excuse me, are like just bringing their own expertise into whatever role they're playing. So that's why like I'm kind of okay with blending. Like my first thought was like Inspector Lee from Rush Hour with Jackie Chan
Right.
instead of Drunken Master, right? But
Mm.
either way, any
Yep.
character that he plays is a kung fu expert because Jackie Chan is a kung fu expert. That's who's the role that he's being hired to play, right? So I'm okay with kind of making that little change there. But any role that you see him in, he's a master of his surroundings. So not only is he, got the fastest hands in the East and again kung fu expert, but he's aware of everything around him. It's like a parkour level expertise, which I'm not sure that again the Bruce Lee, the Jet Lees of the world necessarily have. He's more of that kind of stunt guy to use everything around him.
It feels like if we made this list and we're talking about fighters, like like maybe some of the characters aren't in the ring quite as much or whatever. But if you're not including Jackie Chan or Bruce Lee on this list, it feels like we're not doing it right.
You gotta have it, right? They got to be mentioned here.
Yeah. But that fight scene that I'm talking about, like if you look up Drunken Master fight scenes, that probably be one of the first ones, maybe the first one that show up. It's worth a watch. It's pretty lengthy too, but it's like not like for a fight scene, it's pretty long. It's awesome though. Like definitely worth a big.
Love it here. Now number 3, this could get a little contentious. This was your number 1.
Yeah.
But my 13th here, this is coming in for 18 points. We're talking about Maximus, played by why can't I remember anyone's name, Nick? What is his name?
Russell Crowe.
Russell Crowe, thank you. From Gladiator. He survived in the Roman Colosseum, right? This is my little tail of the tape that I got for him. So that's worth something. He was a slave who won his freedom. That's worth something. Fought off lions and tigers and bears. Oh my. However, he wants to die. He wants to be with his family.
Yeah, that's a fair thing to weigh. I just like he's gonna represent the people that like he cares about though. In the end, he's not like he might die like, but he's not gonna die on your behalf. Like intentionally gonna die on your behalf. I guess is what it's gonna come down to. If he has to save somebody
that's
else's
true.
life.
Okay, all right, I could see that there. I think his is yearning to go back to that field with his wife. Maybe concerns me. If I have that information beforehand, I might not choose him as my savior. But I mean, you talk about, Gladiator. This is this is that. And then also kind of like the weaponry thing. I wasn't totally sure
Yep.
about that. But
Yeah, that's the other thing.
again, either way, if you're going against lions and tigers and then in a fight to the death where, again, nothing's really fair, then, he can kind of, he knows how to operate within those parameters.
100%. I think when first of all, the part about him like wanting to die, like that's a fair concern. Like I can't say that I blame you for docking him points in the rankings for that. And then of course the weaponry thing is a fair point, but this is like at least the most well cited, like original, like boxing ring, or octagon.
Right.
This is it. So obviously he's on both our lists. He's going to be in some capacity, but to me, like, again, it's like, well, this is the setting that he's put in. And as much as you're like, oh yeah, he had weaponry, but he's at a massive, massive disadvantage every single time.
Right.
And he still finds ways to come out on top, whether he's got tigers being unleashed on him or those chariots with the friggin' like pegs sticking out of him that cut people in half. So he's I don't think we've talked about it a whole lot here. This is kind of my thing with Brendan Conlon. Like their brain is like their best muscle, and these guys are fighters. So if you have that on your side, that's going to make a huge difference in the course of all this.
Yes, and how I got to Maximus on my list, because I originally had my first thought was Achilles. I was a great warrior, like never beaten, like almost like, again, master proficiency in like so many disciplines. Great tactical leader or fighter, but real person. So I can't, so I was like, not going to do that there. So he falls in that.
Achilles is a real person?
Well, I mean, I'm going to presume so.
I thought he was just
Helen of Troy, Achilles. No, I think that's all real, man.
Oh, I thought it was mythology. But either way, he's
whether or not he was actually like, half god. Dipped in the bath of holy water or godlike water or something like that. That was the whole thing, right? He was dipped in some holy communion water, except for his ankle, because that's how he was being helped.
I think we should let the people decide this and let us know. Maybe we can put it out a poll.
I think it could be like Jesus. Like maybe like Jesus was a real person.
Okay.
But maybe the lore around him grew over time,
That could be the case. I did not know that. I kind of want to put it out to a poll.
No, Jesus is real. You didn't know that? Find God, Nick. No.
Oh, God, help me. Let's see. All right, I'm up. Lee, played by Bruce Lee in Enter the Dragon. I had him at number 2. You had him at number 7 for 23 points. Again, like, you have to have Bruce Lee on this list. It's just a matter of like finding the best movie he's in, maybe the best action in a movie, whatever. But if you go look up Bruce Lee like fight sequences and you look up Enter the Dragon one specifically, there's a whole battle. There's like one battle where he is going up against this, I believe, an American or maybe a British guy, but like he has a martial arts battle with this guy or combat with him. And that's like interesting. It's kind of the way it ends is kind of funny. He does like this like jumping stomp kick, but there's another scene where he's like battling endless amounts of guards in like a prison where he's trying, and it's amazing. Like the stuff that guy could do and how fluid it was. Like now we get actors and stunt doubles are interesting, but now it's CGI and whatnot. Like you wouldn't need that shit with Bruce Lee. Even now you still wouldn't need it with him.
No, and I think you gotta, like you said, gotta have him represented on this list. He's like the godfather of so many Eastern martial art disciplines here. He's got mastery of Tai Chi, Wing Chun, boxing, karate, judo, taekwondo, and his own compilation of all of his disciplines that he compiled into one discipline called Jeet Kune Do. I might be mispronouncing that there, but it's like a combination of everything that he's learned to kind of make into his own discipline there. So it's got a little bit of Tai Chi, a little bit of karate, a little bit of judo, and it's all kind of blended into one there. But I think what hurts him is his size, right? And we talked about this with a couple other ones. 5'8", 141 pounds, super quick hands. So if he gets inside of you, maybe he can do a bunch of different things there, and that's, do some damage on the inside. But again, if we're talking about the Hound or Ivan Drago, that's going to be very tough to kind of get inside there. And those, flyweight kind of punches that Lee has, like, I'm not sure how much damage that's going to do on a rock hard ab of Ivan Drago, Victor Drago, something like that. So, and again, those kicks can just be caught and absorbed, and then you can just overpower and like manhandle, someone like that. So we saw that in Once Upon a Time with Hollywood with Brad Pitt, Clint Booth, right? Just kind of like catching Bruce Lee by the leg and then throwing him into the wall. I think that's kind of what happens.
Something like that. Yeah, something like that. And maybe you're right. I guess and I wonder, I forget like what period in time that was in Bruce, supposed to be in like Bruce Lee's life.
He's just so quick, man.
Yeah, he's quick, and like that's where some of these guys too. Also, like if we're talking like the actual actors in these roles, I think that Bruce Lee's the guy who you have number one is the only other guy who, like, if we're talking the actual individuals, who I'm like, he might give him a hard time. But yeah, like
that's in there. You know, I would love to see like a Jackie Chan, Bruce Lee, Jackie Chan, Jet Li, and I think even like going through and researching some of these fights or some of the like these fight scenes. There's a YouTube channel that actually does like CGI fights between like famous fictional fighters.
How is it?
I had to go back to it. I got pulled away from it, so I didn't get a chance to actually watch them. I just saw the thumbnails on it, and I was like, I got to go back here, and I just got sidetracked. Couldn't
text
do it.
me the one of the links when you.
I'll try to find them. Yeah, because it looks really interesting. I would want to see it for myself there, but that seems like a good watch.
Yeah, definitely. But going back to the pound for pound stuff, this is one of those guys where like Sonya Blade is different. Obviously, there's a lot of different stuff going on with that story. You know, Bruce Lee stuff is supposed to be more grounded from a plot standpoint, but I still look at it and think like I do think he could take on some of these other guys who have a significant size on him. Not all of them necessarily, but I do think that I think he'd have that ability just because he's so gifted physically. But again, pound for pound, like he is it. So that's why he has to be number 2 on my list.
Yeah, and again, like he's probably the most skilled too.
Yeah,
when you come down to it.
Yes,
here. But it's tough. It's tough to be it doesn't matter how skilled you are. It's tough to beat size right here, and that's what it comes down to with our number 1 here. And it's none other than the Mountain from Game of Thrones. My number 1, your number 4. That's a grand total of 27 points. A nice 4-point win for the Mountain. Weighing at 6'9". It says he's 400 pounds. I would reckon he's somewhere over. That seems too even of a number. Somewhere over there. Huge individual. I think he's Swedish or like Scandinavian, something like that. He's Northern Europe. But he's very hard to kill. And even then, he's known to come back from the dead. He's participated in these types of matches before here. And again, I don't know how you attack someone like that without a gun.
Right.
You know, like, because I think even like a sword or something, or again, like I know how successful Oberyn was with like the staff or that elongated spear, but still that we saw what the outcome was there. Like, I don't know how you handle sheer size and strength.
But that's why in the end I had to have Oberyn ahead of him on my list, and I had to I felt comfortable still having Lee from Enter the Dragon ahead of him on my list because we've seen somebody who's of a slender frame beat him. Yes, he did have a weapon that was lengthier, that did take away the reach.
Well, he still killed him.
He killed him, but Bruce, Lee is not going to be running into that same issue, like a very disciplined individual. So the only reason that the Mountain won again is because of the personal vendetta that was there for Oberyn. So like that's why yes, the Mountain still, Wes, the only way to resolve this is to get the Mountain and then bring Bruce Lee back from the dead and have them duke it out.
I think that's
on behalf of us. Yeah.
But I feel very confident that the Mountain against almost anyone is going to be handling themselves in a hand-to-hand fisticuffs. No weapons, no nothing.
So in real life, I will say that this guy would. I'm pretty sure he'd be my pick because 6'9". I'm not seeing the weight. He's actually 34 years old.
Yeah, he's young, right? Yeah,
and I'm probably saying it wrong, but Harper Julius Bjornsson, he's from Iceland actually, and he is a strongman. So I guess he's done those contests.
I knew that, and he's got like a teeny tiny girlfriend or wife or something. There's some pictures there, and it's like if you ever seen Vitaly Klitschko and Hayden Panettiere together, like when they were on the red carpet or when they were dating, like again, he's like 6'9" heavyweight champion, and Hayden Panettiere was like, I don't know, 5 foot nothing, 120 pounds. Like, and it just makes you wonder about the dynamics of the bedroom dynamics, like how does that work?
It's got to be something. But what was I going to say? Oh yeah, so maybe he doesn't have just last bit on the actual like actor. Probably doesn't. I don't know if he has this like the technique, but just when you're 6'9" and you have
You
like
don't need it. Yeah.
you've moved that much weight, as long as you know how to throw a punch, like it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
Not gonna.
absolutely. Here, we'll do a quick run through of the top 10 before we get to some dishonorable discharges, some bad fighters here. The Hound at number 10, Aragorn at number 9, Oberyn Martell at 8, Ivan Drago at 7, Diamond Dame Anderson at 6, Kurt Sloan from Kickboxer at number 5, Wong Fei Hung at number 4, Maximus at number 3, Bruce Lee at number 2, and number 1 is the Mountain, best fictional fighter.
There you have it. And then we have some bad fighters that we wanted
Yes.
to mention, but it's interesting because I'm going to lead us off here, Wes, because you have this person listed under bad fighter. She was actually on my list. Maggie Fitzgerald from $1 Million Baby, played by Hilary Swank. I mean, she kicked everybody's ass, like pound for pound. Like that's like my definition of the pound for pound stuff. Like she took care of business every time.
Hey, she gets paralyzed. There's no way to
On
beat
a
around
cheap
it.
shot, like on a cheap shot. That's
life isn't fair, man. Sometimes that's going to happen.
That's not a bad fighter, though. She's a great fighter. You're going to reward with that. That's insane.
I want someone to be fully aware of their surroundings at all time and not let their guard down because a bell was rung.
Jeez, wow.
I'm sorry if someone's going to be protecting my life. That's
okay.
That's what it comes down to.
All right, there we have it. So now that's why Wes thinks that Maggie Fitzgerald is a bad fighter. I think she's a great fighter.
I had her ahead of the Karate Kid.
I will say too, the girl who was the final fighter who ends up kind of being like the villain in the end because of the terrible thing that the character does. She was actually, I think Billy Osterman is her name. She was actually like a kickboxer or something like that, and in real life, once nicknamed the most dangerous woman in the world. And actually, the actress is Lucia Riker. The character was Billy Osterman. Excuse me.
Oh, okay. I like that there. Yeah, and I saw that movie in theaters when it came out like years ago with my dad. And I've only seen it once. I could still physically like almost feel that neck breaking scene. Like it's very tough to watch.
Yeah.
But I just can't have my champions have that. Call me cold.
Tough story.
Also, again, we'll touch Tyler Durden, Fight Club. Can take a punch, great. He has nothing to lose, great. But he's also nothing to fight for, which I think, I'm not sure if he cares about anything in life. And I think if you need to fight, you need to have a why.
Yeah, that's fair. I had him way down on 20 on my list, and obviously there are some movies I haven't seen that maybe I would have included characters. But yeah, no, you're right. He's
might be Robert Paulson ahead of him. Again, the size thing.
Oh yeah, he's an interesting cat. That's for damn sure.
Great shit, Bob.
Joe, Jesus, that's right. I forgot about that guy. Yeah,
big guy. You just all you do is you just smother him, or he would smother you.
It is important though being able to take a punch. That's what.
No, absolutely.
So Rocky's not on our list, but we both had him on our list. But he's not among the bad fighters. Who else you got for me? Because you had two others on your bad fighter.
Yeah, Buffy Summers. I had this on here. I wasn't really sure, so I didn't feel confident ranking her from Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I mean, she fights vampires, but does she might have a history in karate. I feel like she was a kicker. I feel like she had a lot of kicks, a lot of high kicks, jumping kicks.
She had training, but it was to be a vampire killer. But she also had powers. If she had made our list, I probably would have said something because I don't think she should count. But yeah,
I guess I was thinking like Sarah Michelle Gellar, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, more than like the comic book graphic novel lore. No, so I'm not sure if she had powers.
Yes,
too.
She did.
She did, huh?
Yes, that's what I'm basing off.
Okay, fair enough.
Is it more about her as a fighter, and her fluidity of fighting, like from Sarah Michelle Gellar?
No, I'm just not sure if I want like a high school girl fighting for me. Like that give me some pause for concern there. I think obviously being known to fight vampires is helpful, but call me judging a book by its cover there, but I just want more size. I want more meat. If someone's going to be fighting for me.
The youth is definitely the thing I would say I don't trust. But from a skill standpoint, I mean, she can take care of business. But
sure.
Anyways, I had one more on my list. I forgot about this person as I was trying to get you to say your two. I'll let you get your other one in a second, but I just wanted to mention Jake Tyler from Never Back Down. The only reason I wanted to mention that is because this is like when we talk about like B movies, I know like that there's like B movies from back in the day. Now we talk about like it's a B grade movies when I say that kind of a thing. But when you talk about B movies like from back in the day, they're just like not like to me, it's like made for VHS right away. Not a great thing. Probably shouldn't have been in the cinemas if it was at all. And I don't know if Never Back Down was. It does have like some names, some faces that you might recognize.
I've heard of the movie. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
My first roommate in college, like loved it for some reason, and there's like quite a bit of Rise Against music in there, or this one song. So like he's like, "Oh, I want you to watch it." It's not good. It's not. It's like, you know, I watched it and it was fine, whatever. But like, it's I would not recommend that to a soul. So
yeah, something good there. All right, but okay, so we got our fictional fighters. So we're running a little short on time here. So maybe we'll save our little draft 3-card fight for another time here, right?
Totally forgot about that. Jeez,
no, but this is all good stuff. And we've got content for days now, right? This is good stuff. So that concludes our top 10 fictional fighters in movies and TV history.